All right, Dominica, we're here. We're talking to a professor, Dr. Peter Baofu. He's a Vietnamese professor. Oh, he's an American, but he was born in Vietnam.
No,
right?
I'm Chinese American.
Chinese American is a different one. Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to you. So how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
You're fine. This afternoon there, we want to, of course, have a conversation. It's going to be a short conversation, but we want to make sure that we, speak to you and find out just what you're doing in Dominica. I heard you have visited the other radio stations and maybe television stations with government information service. So what are you here in Dominica for, sir?
Well, I'm on a global tour for my ethnographic research about humanity.
A global tour?
Yes.
Okay, bring the microphone closer to you, please. Thank you.
I have been in more than 150 countries already, so there's only about maybe 20 or 30 more that I need to go before I finish everything. And I do that because I want to understand humanity on the ground, not just in one country, in regard to one race, one culture, I try to understand all of them because I want to provide some solutions to global problems in a very realistic way. And that's exactly what I have done. And I have written more than 180 different books in all fields of knowledge. And that's why my research is very, very broad. And I have proposed more than 47, 50 different new theories and new visions of the human future in relation to the mind, society, culture, and nature. So a totalistic understanding of humanity.
Wow. That's very broad.
Exactly. No one has done that before, by the way.
No one has done it before.
Well, name one in human history who has done what I have done. 180 different books in all fields of knowledge, and I have proposed more than 150 different new theories and new visions in all fields of knowledge.
Wow, that's very amazing. Yeah. Do you speak different languages?
Yes, I can understand more or less 10 of them, but I don't speak in the same degree of fluency. English is my first language, is the language that I speak on a daily basis. But I also understand some other languages. I was also interviewed, by the way, on TV around the world. Some of them were in Spanish, some of them were in French. Just one example. So, but not all of them are equally fluent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Dominica?
No, I just have been here for a few days.
So what are you trying to understand about the Dominican life?
I try to understand different cultures and different societies and different values that they have. And I don't need to stay in a culture for a long time to understand that because I am a specialist on this kind of issue. And I'm very quick to understand some of the issue. And many of the problems facing Dominica and also can be comparable to many other places that I have visited.
So you don't have to stay in the country too long to understand?
No, because I spend a lot of time researching on them already. It's not that I have to wait until I come before I understand anything. That would be wasting a lot of time. You have to do your homework, right? Before you do anything in life. By the time you are there, you should be more or less well-versed.
But what have you discovered thus far about Dominica?
Well, there are a lot of different things, but since the conversation that you're interested in is about lifestyle and culture, so we can just talk about lifestyle and culture because we don't have too much time to talk about many other things.
Okay, let's talk about the lifestyle. What have you discovered about the lifestyle in Dominica?
Well, there are a lot of different things, but I think that the lifestyle here is very comparable to the lifestyle in many of the islands in the Caribbean and also in Oceania, where I have visited also, and also in some part of Africa too, by the way. So I think that they have something in common, even though different cultures are very different. The lifestyle over here, for example, is very laid back.
Laid back,
yes. By comparison, let's say, with the culture that you may see in China, in Japan, or in Germany, for example, the lifestyle over there is very different from the one here. Now, when I talk about different, I'm not making value judgment. I mean, whether you want one or want the other one is up to you. But I'm not saying that you should have one or you have the other one. So my analysis is academic. I'm not coming here to propound that you should be like those in Dominica, or you should be like those in China. For me, that's not even the issue. It's not relevant to my conversation.
But the fact that we are laid back, is that a disadvantage, as you said, or an advantage?
Every lifestyle has advantages and disadvantages. They are good and bad. So which one do you pick is up to the person to make a decision, not me. Let me give you some examples of the advantages and disadvantages. For example, in a lifestyle which is laid back, there are something in common. Let me give you 2 or 3 examples. In a lifestyle which is laid back, is that people do not like to work too much.
They don't like to work too much.
Not to the extreme that you see, let's say, in China or in Japan. They work too much. I mean, some of them are even, so stressed that they die out. I mean, some of them even commit suicide. I mean, it's totally unheard of for you to say that a Dominican just commits suicide because he's working too much. It does not. It is very rare. But in Japan, in China, you see quite a number of cases almost every year, and even students, when they fail an examination in high school, they commit suicide. Why? I mean, in Africa or in the Caribbean or in Oceania, for a person to commit suicide because they fail in high school examination, that is unheard of. Because in those places, work. I mean, the lifestyle is very workaholic. Also in Germany too, by the way, not so extreme, but also in Germany, they are also quite workaholic. So some cultures are much more workaholic. Some are much more laid back. Again, I'm not saying that workaholic is better or worse. It can be very bad too for someone to get stressed out. To live a life like that, I don't think that there's a lot of good thing about it. But on the other hand, there are also advantages because you produce more.
But I'm very happy you brought in the issue of China, and some people think they're overworked.
Yeah.
We see that because there are a lot of Chinese in Dominica. Why is it important for them to work so much?
There are a lot of different reasons. I also have a chance to visit China. I was a Fulbright scholar over there. I was a U.S. Fulbright scholar, and I spent a year studying the society. And think about Hong Kong as an example. Hong Kong is part of China. In Hong Kong, the place is small. It's just like a city, okay? And the population is huge. There are several millions of them. And they don't have much of any resources. They import everything. So how can you pay for all these resources if you don't have much of anything? You have to work, you have to manufacture, you have to make things to export so that you can import whatever you need. But what if you do not work hard? How can you pay for all of this? Now, in some other countries, let's say in quite a number of countries in Africa that I have visited, I have been in more than 35 different countries in Africa. Africa has tremendous resources. Nigeria has tons of oil. It's one of the major oil producers. And many countries, let's say in Western Africa, they have a lot of agricultural products. And many of them in Africa, they have a lot of minerals, natural resources. All they need is to export all those resources. And they earn so much money each year. So look at Saudi Arabia, oil again. The Saudi Arabians, they don't work too much, by the way. They have a lot of oils. They have a lot of money. And they eat very well. They live quite well. And they are very fat too, by the way, in the belly.
In Saudi Arabia?
Oh, yeah. Many of them. And you go to UAE, you see a lot of people, they even import workers to work for them. Who clean the street, who construct the road, who take care of the airport, who clean the toilet, who drive the buses and all that. Many of them are foreigners from India, from Pakistan, from the Philippines, from Africa and all that. Who do all those banking or teachers? You have some Europeans. Everyone come to UAE to work to earn some money. They import all of this. The local people do not do much of anything. They do not need to.
Somebody's asking the question there as to who's funding the research and in what capacity are you working?
Research, just like in politics. If you are associated by someone, by a group, they fund you, they control you.
They control you.
They control you. They control what you report and write. I'm not going to mention them. I was funded before. And every time when I finish a report, I have to send a report to them. They have to approve. and they would say, "Oh, don't say this, say that. This is okay. But
I get you.
why do you add this? Just one more." And to the point that I said to myself, I don't want to be a money slave.
You don't want to be nobody's slave. No.
I don't want to be a slave of anyone. My job as a scholar is to discover the truth, even though discovering the truth is difficult. But that's my mission in life. And if I say whatever people ask me to say because they pay me for my research, then what's the point of being a scholar? Now, I know some people, my friends, by the way, they love it. They love the money. They say that he said my labor is for sale. They can pay me and I say whatever they like. There are some people that like that, but I don't.
No.
I don't, because my mission is different. Okay. So I'm not saying that everyone should behave like me, nor am I saying that everyone should behave like those friends that I know. So I make the choice that I do not want to be funded by anyone, so that I can say whatever I like to say, to tell the truth as it is. And this is how you make contribution to scholarship, to humanity, if you tell the truth. That's why I have proposed more than 148 or 49 different new theories and new visions so far. In my 180 books, I provide some new ideas for the future of humanity. That's exactly what I could do that other people could not do if they have to tell whatever other people tell them to say.
I'm underlining the word truth. What have you found in terms of your revelations, the truth in Dominica? What have you found out?
Do you mean what I think about the propaganda here in Dominica?
Propaganda, yeah, the
economy? Propaganda is what I discover in my Global 2 is that propaganda is part of life. Whether you like it or do not like it, it's everywhere.
Okay.
In Dominica, in America too. There's too much propaganda in America too. So that is not the issue. The issue is how much and how can you get away from it? How can you get out of it? How can you get out of the box, so to speak? Now, that is a challenge because many people are not scholars. Their job is not to find out the truth. Their job is to make money, for example. So in that case, they don't care about the truth. They don't care too much about it.
They don't care.
In fact, look, in China, a lot of people don't care too much about politics because in Chinese culture, politics is not really that admirable.
You're saying they don't care too much about politics in China?
Look, in America, people like to participate in politics. But in China, people don't like to talk too much because it's just a waste of time. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just saying that there are cultural differences. The mindset is different, okay? And in China, the culture is much more collectivist. People work together with the government to do whatever they need to do to improve life. In America, people like to fight politically. If they scream, yell in front of your face, culture is very individualistic. So I'm not saying that you should be one versus the other. I'm just saying that just like men and women, they are different. One like banana, the other like apples. Is apple better than bananas? I think that it's up to you. But I'm not saying you should like either one. I'm just saying there are bananas, there are also apples.
And you have to respect each other's opinions.
Exactly. But they cannot agree. And unfortunately, in human history, people kill each other in the name of the truth because they think that they know much better than you do. Their truth is absolute. And therefore, if you think that what you say is not true or is not good according to the understanding of the truth, they will come and go to war and kill you and sanction you and overthrow you and so on.
I want to go back to the question of China. You know, the culture is intriguing because you say, for example, you know, if they don't do well in school, you know, they kill themselves. So why is that so? Why is it so important to succeed in China?
No, because education in China that's why China is so successful in many ways in development, because education is revered to the point like a worship. You understand?
Or they worship.
Yeah, the education for Chinese is very important. By comparison, by contrast, I live in Africa for more than 6 years now. So I also understand Africans very well. In Africa, people care more about to be strong. Okay, a mother
physical.
A mother always want their babies to be strong, to be. That's why they want them to be very good in sports. There's an honor. That's why in Africa, soccer, football is like God. I mean, everywhere you go, people are watching football.
Right.
But in China, people don't care much about football.
I get you.
Understand me? But people care a lot about, let's say, education, about examination. about competition in, let's say, once every few years, we have the international Olympia in mathematics, in chess, and all that, in science. They care a lot about that. They want to be number one. But no one say that I want my child to be number one in football. I mean, people look at you and say, why are you talking like this? Understand me, you are very weird. Now, I'm not saying that you should be like them. I'm just telling you the differences between different cultures. That's why life in China, by the way, can be very stressful because you have to work very hard to be successful. And some people, by the way, they get out of China, they live in Africa. I met some of the Chinese in Africa. I asked them, why are they here? They say, well, life in China is so stressful. Now I want to live in Africa because things here is so easy.
Let's see
Very laid back.
Let me see because you're making a very good point. You're making very good points, and I suspect that people want to engage you a little while. Let's see if we can take a phone call. Yes, talk to me. Yes.
Hey, Mr. Peltier, blessings.
Blessings to you, sir.
And welcome to the gentleman.
Welcome, Mr. Baofu. Yes.
All right. Is he the only one in the house, Matt?
Yes, he's the only one, and Franklin Moses is also there with me too. Yes, go ahead.
Franklin, all right, the only man who shake Moses on. Anyway, let me just welcome the brother again and listen to me, sir. With the rapid decline of the American empire and with the rise of China, BRICS, Russia, India, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia, and all of them, and more people are joining. You writing books and you have all the different theories for a better future for the world. How do you watch that possibility of a nuclear showdown with all your theories and all your hopes for the future? I do not want you to be pessimistic, but what is your optimism in the world becoming a better place? Because your mission is to come up with new theories, how the world can be a better place. I don't know if you understand me. Blessings.
Do you understand the question?
Yes. I'm not so pessimistic because I do not believe that there will be a World War III between China and the US or the US and Russia anytime soon. All these are just sensational stories in mass media. The situation in Ukraine, the situation in Gaza, think about it. It's not as bad as you might think. Right now in Ukraine, two sides has more or less reached a stalemate. Russia is getting some tiny territories on the east, but they are not going very far on that. And Ukraine is trying to open a new front, but I don't think that they are going to go very far because they don't have the resources and the manpower and the equipment to occupy, to stay for a long time. They can come in and do some damages, and then they have to get out sooner before they get ambushed and eliminated. Mm-hmm. So it's just like a kind of, they do that with different purposes, to try to force Russia to a negotiation for a better term, try to convince the West to give me more weapons, more aids, and all that, we can do the job. But in the end, in terms of the military gains, they are not going to do much of anything. So I'm not that concerned about what's the new front. Sooner or later, they will be out. And on the east front, Russia will gain some territory, but they will not be a lot that they have done already. Even look in the last 2 or 3 years, what they have done is more or less, it's not changed much of anything. And also, between the major powers, the war in Ukraine is not between Ukraine and Russia. The war in Ukraine is a proxy war between the West and Russia, and they will not want to go to a nuclear war. It will not benefit either side. So I'm sure that Russia will use nuclear weapons if they get attacked. More deeply inside. But right now, there's no need. There's no need for them. So I don't see any reason. I'm sure that some media in the West, I heard about them too. They talk about the nuclear war coming up. I don't believe in any of it. It's just exaggeration.
All right, my friend need to ask a question. Go ahead, Franklin.
Yes, sir. You said you're not optimistic that there's going to be the catalyst for a third World War?
No, there's some exaggeration. This in Western mass media and also international mass media. Mm-hmm. Mass media like to engage in some kind of sensational stories. That's their job, by the way, to sell well. But there's no evidences that they are preparing for a nuclear war against each other. No reason for that.
Somebody's asking a question there on the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Could you ask the gentleman the following? What are your methodologies, or what methodologies that you use in your research?
My methodology, I don't depend on one, because if you depend on one methodology, then you are very narrow. So normally I use all kinds of methodologies. I use all sorts of information. I also do not side with any side, because if you side with one side against the other side, then you are perpetuating the same bias of one side against the other side. Just like the US or the Western Alliance, as you side with us, do not side with Russia. You go to Russia and say, side with us, don't side with the West. I don't side with anyone, because remember, I'm not a politician. I'm an academic. I don't side.
So you're very independent. In that
You know,
way.
I'm very independent. I only tell the whatever I think is the truth. I tell them, and I also don't side and say you are evil, you are good, or you are bad. I don't talk like this. This is
It
the
doesn't
job
really
of a
matter.
politician.
Doesn't really matter the consequences.
I think that the scholarship should not think about the consequences as because when you start thinking about it, you compromise the scholarship. It's part of life. Just like a politician, you may get assassinated. A scholar can get crucified too, can get executed. But it's part of being a scholar.
And you're not worried about that at all.
I don't worry about it, because I'm not attacking anyone. Why do I need to? I'm not attacking you or anyone else and say you are bad, they are evil. If I criticize, I try to criticize all sides and try to show them a solution to the problem.
All right. Hello, talk to me. Yes. Good afternoon.
Yeah, is this Q?
It is Q. Yes.
Yeah, that individual is quite right, because God has this thing. Man cannot stop the time. God doesn't have to stop it. Bob Marley have no fear of atomic energy, for none of them can stop the time. Then people are too intelligent to destroy themselves with nuclear weapon, and I agree with that individual. Thank you very much.
All right. Somebody's saying China's goal has very high poverty, and I think they look at education as a way out of poverty. Plus, China's goal for the world domination is educational goals. You agree?
I don't think China is looking for a global domination. Do you have any evidences? Now,
They're not looking for global.
No. This Western narrative, this Western anti-China propaganda, by the way, you have to be careful about the narrative on both sides. Just as you read the Chinese mass media, they also have a lot of anti-American propaganda too. So my job as a scholar is that I don't listen to Western mass media. I also don't listen to Chinese mass media. And if you look into the situation, it's very different. Now, different powers, they always struggle for their own interests. Yes, they do. The same thing about Dominica too. As a country, you also pursue your own interest. They pursue their own interest. The US pursue its own interest. But then we demonize the other side and say that, hey, you look for global domination. You are a terrorist. You are bad. We are the good guy. We fight for freedom, and you are terrorists. It's just name calling. In the end, all powers, all countries, including Dominica, you fight for your own survival. You fight for your own interest. The only difference is that Dominica is not a superpower. China and the US, they're the big guys. And when you're the big guys, you have a lot of interest around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to intervene in a lot of things because you're the big guy. China, by the way, is the largest trading partner for more than 140 different countries. The US has only about 60 or 70. So when you have something like that, when we are so massive, then of course you engage everywhere. And people say, you are for global domination, but you have to pursue your own interest. That's how you trade. Now, think about this. If you want global domination, you need to have a military might, right?
Mm-hmm.
But look, which one has the higher military budget? The US military budget is larger than the next 10 military powers on earth combined together.
Wow.
But how can you say that? Look, the US has more than 1,000 military bases, and China has only have one in Djibouti. How can you have global domination if you have one military base and the other side have 1,000 of them? I mean, there's no evidence for it. Now, economic trade, yes, they trade a lot because they are peaceful. They don't invade another country, overthrow another country. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
And Chinese philosophy in foreign policy is that no intervention. You respect my values, I respect yours. I don't talk about your country. You don't intervene in my country, but we can still trade.
What about the thoughts? I've heard many a thought that China wants to take over the world.
No, there's anti-China narrative. Show me the evidences. I mean, people can say whatever they like, but what are the evidences? The best way to convince someone like me as a scholar is to show me the evidence that I shall believe in you. But name calling, suppose I say that you are a rapist, you are a murderer. Okay, now you are going to say, well, show me the evidence. I never raped anyone, I never murdered anyone. I say, no, you are a murderer. Okay, fine, show me the evidences.
All right.
Simple.
Let's take a phone call there. We have to wrap it up because time is of the essence. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt, with all respect due to the gentleman, he is saying he's not for one side or the other. When he makes the comparison having to do with America politics and China politics and the lack of enthusiasm or interest where China is a concern in politics, he did not insert in the argument the system of government in China will not allow any division because they want to keep that cohesion. And let me tell you, sir, might is right. China is getting there. Every empire that rules always wanted to rule the world. It was the Romans, the English, England, America, all of them, and China have the same ambition. In a more subtle way, it's not about bombs and guns and all of that. Dollar diplomacy. Yeah, come on, it's obvious.
All right, caller, we'll take your response in a minute there. Hello, because I just explained to you that it appears, quote unquote, that China wants to take over the world. Let's take another phone call. Are you there? Oh, sorry about that, 449. Yes, and the perception. There's a perception that China wants to take over the world. But before I come back to you, let's see if we can take another phone call. There are many phone calls. We have 1 or 2 more minutes. Hello, are you going to be? Are you there, caller?
If you read the book of Ezekiel 38, and go down, it pertains to China and Russia. Okay, they call it Gog and Magog in the Bible, and these are the islands that don't think that when Christ came to fight and all these things. So that is what it is: Magog and Gog. That is China and Russia. That's what I want to say. Ezekiel 48, go down 48.
And the name of somebody still asking your name. Your name is Peter Baofu. It's a Baofu. I did some research here this morning. Over 157 books there, and more than what?
180.
180.
Yeah.
To your name, and you're still doing more. That's a lot of books. 180. Let's take a phone call here. Hello, talk to me. Yes. Phone, yes.
Matt,
Yes,
the
speak
gentleman spoke about presenting evidence. China seems to have a problem with most of the countries on its border. It's an expansionist. In other words, it has problems with India. It has problems with, all the countries in the South China Sea. Why are they having such problems with borders? And why aren't they? Can he deny that they're expanding into those areas?
You can answer that question?
Yes. Every major powers always have problem with a neighbor. India too has problem with every single neighbor. You go to Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, they have problem with all of them. Russia too, China too, the US too also have problem with all these neighbors. Look at how many countries the US have invaded in Latin America. That's why people say, Yankee, go home. You understand me? So am I surprised about that? Of course you have problem with your neighbor, but the issue is how are you going to resolve the conflict? China has not fought a war. For since when? If you look at the human history, China don't engage in imperialism, colonialism. They have the power to do that, but they did not do that. They were even conquered by the Mongolians. You see that for more than 5,000 years, Chinese civilization is very peaceful. A sociologist, I do not remember his name. His name is a Quincy Wright or something like that. He's a well-known sociologist. He's not alive anymore. He once did a research classifying all the major civilizations on Earth. Which one is the most violent? Which one is the most peaceful? And his finding is that China, together with some of the Confucian society, are the most peaceful in history. The most violent are the US, the UK, and all that. And nowadays, some other sociologists, they are also doing the same kind of research, have the same finding. One of the major problems with the Chinese Liberation Army is that they have not fought a war for a long time, and they are not that experienced in fighting. The US engage in endless war each year. They say they have no experience in fighting because China doesn't invade anyone. That is the problem with the military.
But they're thinking of invading Taiwan.
Oh no, Taiwan is a different issue. It's not because of the invasion, because the issue between Taiwan and China is a civil war back in the 1940s and 1930s. Okay, that's an internal issue they try to address, but I don't think that is going to happen anytime soon. Yes, they could. I mean, if they become independent, they could fight. But I don't think that is going to happen anytime soon. But I think that's an internal problem for them to resolve. But China does not do that to Japan, doesn't do that to Korea, doesn't do that to any other, or Philippines or Malaysia or Indonesia or Laos or Cambodia. Okay, that is an internal issue. Just as when you have civil war in many other countries too. The U.S. had a civil war many years ago. Do you know that? They fought and they get rid of the other one. So how about that? So that is an internal issue, an exceptional case. But I don't think that if you look at the larger picture, China has been very peaceful. The same thing about many other Buddhist society.
Well, I'm hoping. I know we have to go because we have an next program. How long are you going to be in Dominica?
I have been here for a few days.
And you're leaving this weekend?
Yeah.
I wish I could continue having a conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Next time you come back, you'll still be here tomorrow.
Yes.
Until what time?
Until in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, okay.
Yeah.
But I was hoping we'll have another conversation because the telephones are going crazy. Everybody want to ask questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Baofu, I want to say, we can try. Yeah, let's say you can try tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon, or
I probably need to go to the airport at 1 or something like that. If you can get something before that could be nice.
Maybe before that, we'll try.
Yeah,
we'll try.
Yeah, we can try.
Okay.
There could be interesting conversation to continue this because I know that a lot of people have followed this kind of narrative. Many people do not know that. There are a lot of misinformation in international mass media. They always try to one side demonize the other side.
One side demonize the other side.
It happens all the time. The Western mass media, which also control global mass media, always demonize China. China, on the other hand, in the mass media also demonize the U.S. But I don't like either of them because those are propaganda. But we have to be careful about it.
But is there propaganda when we hear that Chinese have a lot of human rights issues? Is that the case?
I think that there are also a lot. Look, human rights violation exists in all countries, including Dominica, by the way. If you listen to the opposition, they will tell you all this kind of violation. But look into the freedom that China has now. In many ways, China is much freer than the U.S. Think about this. In the U.S., you have a lot of homelessness. In China, you don't have this. There is a freedom from homelessness. Talk about, let's say, violence, freedom from violence. In the U.S., almost every day. In China, for example, you leave a laptop, let's say, in the shopping mall, in the bus, people will discover and return back to you. In the U.S., you leave something like that, it's gone in 5 minutes. Now, this is also freedom too, right?
I agree.
Now, and then, look, the U.S. spends so much time on the military. That's why the U.S. engage in endless war all the time. But why do they spend the same money in infrastructure, in education, in healthcare? And China has been spending tons of money on them. It's a tremendous improvement on human rights. Why we do not talk about this? It's propaganda again. Now, we talk about voting, election. But different society and different political system, they don't care about this because in China's political system, they don't follow the liberal democratic election. They follow their own version of the political participation. It's different.
We can continue that conversation tomorrow at 9 o'clock for 45 minutes. Can we do that?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Thank you very much for coming. All right. We'll have a conversation with you again tomorrow morning. It's very, very interesting. Very educational. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a next stop coming up here at... We've way gone past the time, but we're joining Flo Dominica. Thank you, Dominica. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Mr. Baofu, how am I pronouncing that word correctly?
Yeah, you're right.
Baofu, okay.
Yeah, Baofu, yeah.
You said you were listening this morning. A lot of people called because they had a few questions for you as it relates. Like they actually believe that you were a defender of China. What can you speak to that? Good morning again.
No, I think there's a total misunderstanding. My point as a scholar for my research is to show you that there are cultural values and beliefs in different environments, and they are different. And in many ways, they are in conflict with each other. If you go to one culture, they often try to defend the culture as superior or better than the other one. You go to the other one, they think that there is better than this one. So my point is to show you that there are different cultural values and beliefs. and some of them are not compatible. And when they are not compatible, instead of saying that there's my culture, mine is better, my values, my truth is absolute. If you don't do it, I'm going to invade you, I'm going to bomb you, I'm going to put sanctions on you, I'm going to force you to do it. My point as a scholar is to point out that there are different cultural values, and we need to learn to respect each other. You have your own values, they have their own values. You may disagree, fine. But don't just say that because that's your value. Your value is, in this case, is the absolute one, that you think that is stand for the truth. So they have to follow you. If you don't, you can just go ahead and kill them, or genocide, or sanction, invasion, whatever that might be. So that is the point that I'm trying to make. The reason I answered that question that you asked last time, because you asked me about the different values and belief lifestyle. This I told you. And I want to share with you that the cultures over here are different from the cultures elsewhere. China is a good example. Germany is another example. The US is another example. The UK is another example. India is another example. I can tell you more about any of the other countries. We don't need to talk about China, but it's just one example, because China is just the opposite of the laid-back culture that we have. But we can pick another example. It doesn't have to be about China. It can be about Vietnam. It can be about Cambodia. It can be about Africa. So it doesn't have to be.
Who do you believe right now as we speak that maybe the economic power of the world?
Say that again? The economic power.
Yes.
The economic power that's in another book of mine is that China is already surpassing the US since 2014.
They are surpassing the US.
Yes. The largest economy right now in terms of purchasing power parity is not the US anymore. It's China more than 10 years ago. We are not even talking about will they surpass or not. They did already more than 10 years ago in terms of the purchasing power parity. Now, in the Western world, people don't like to talk about this because they don't like to make themselves in decline. So they use the old-fashioned index called the nominal exchange rate. Now, in economics, nominal exchange rate by definition means not real. They are nominal. They are not real.
Okay.
Why? Because they're based on fluctuation. On a given day of the stock market, for example, you may have the exchange, and the exchange volume up and down. The rate can be up and down 1,000 times, but the production doesn't change. If you produce 1,000 tons of steel today, you produce 1,000 tons, but it doesn't matter whether the exchange rate go up and down today, and next second it go up, and 5 hours later go down. For today.
So you're saying the Americans don't like the fact that, or to debate whether China or America is the economic power?
The question is not whether they like it or not. The question is that any power doesn't like to be in decline. In the 19th century, this is exactly what happened to China too. The Chinese empire collapsed in 1911. In the 19th century, a lot of people were debating. At that time, the UK, the British, and many other empires came into China and tried to colonize China. Hong Kong, by the way, Macau was taken as a colony, as you know that. So at that time, a lot of Chinese too, they also don't like it. And they don't like to admit the fact that China was in decline. They still think that China is superior than the Europeans, but they lost in the end. So all empires, the British Empire, by the way, just in case you do not remember, Churchill once said that I do not want to be responsible for the decline of the British Empire. No one wanted it. No one liked it. But the point is that there is a tendency in each culture that when it's in decline, they try to in denial. They blame that on everything else. A scholar like me is to tell you what is happening. In fact, some of the solutions which can be used to empower that. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But the point is that a scholar like me, we don't want to take side. The problem is that I listen to a lot of callers. They always want me to take side, one side against the other side. I don't take side. I make a prediction.
Franklin, you want to ask a question? Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. What's your thoughts on China and the position of Taiwan?
This is a question which is internal because China and Taiwan has something to do with the civil war between the nationalists and the communists back in the 1930s, for example. And then the communists won the civil war, so the nationalists, they fled to Taiwan. Taiwan is a province of China historically. Okay, so they have been, and then it was supported by the U.S. And for many years, the nationalists tried to have the dream that they are going to reconquer China and take back what they lost.
God.
So there is a fight between the two factions in Chinese political history. Just like in Dominica, you have to, I'm not going to go into the Pacific. I know that there's a problem between the opposition and the government. In fact, I just spoke to one person, I'm not going to mention them. He is the opposition in Dominica. Okay, he has his side of the story, and the government has his side of the story. Now, there's two problems. There's a problem here. They fight, they crash. Okay, what if they come into power next time? You understand me?
Yes,
so
I follow you.
in politics, you never last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Today you're in power, tomorrow there will be someone else. So maybe this time it's communists, next time the nationalists. In fact, before that, it was the nationalists who were in power. So history has changed. And now the dynamics have changed. Mainland China under the CCP is getting more and more powerful. Taiwan is getting more and more weaker. So if you ask me to make a prediction, will that dream come true to reconquer China? I say no chance in the short term. No chance.
No chance. Okay. There's something I was wanting to ask you, and I'm going to be straight with you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's right for what China did to Hong Kong, or what's the position of China and Hong Kong since they've been annexed?
Yes.
Yes.
Since the return of Hong Kong to China, because Hong Kong was taken by the British as a colony, not just Hong Kong. Macau, by the way, just in case you don't know, was taken by Portugal as a Portuguese colony in China. So they have been fighting. So at that time, when they colonized, they asked China to sign a treaty, I think 99 years, to allow the UK to control Hong Kong as a colony. At the time, the collapse of the Chinese Empire. So they signed the treaty under duress. So they never recognized that. So they always said that when we have the power, we will take them back. But anyway, in 1993, that is the 99 years. That's the end of that treaty. So it was returned to China peacefully. Okay. Now, afterwards, under the agreement between the two sides, that Hong Kong will be a special administrative region of China. That means that it allowed to have its own administrative autonomy, not foreign policy. You can have your own police force. You have, all these kind of things for 50 years, for example. So they are by doing that. Now, since then, there are some problem and there are subversion by major powers, including the West. Okay, they try to support the opposition and try to ask them to overthrow the CCP in China. In fact, some of the protests and demonstration, for example, it's not just about a bill which is about extradition. It's much go beyond that. If you listen to some of the protests, they want to get rid of all this altogether. So now they impose a security law under the engagement that, because in that administrative region, national security, including Hong Kong, is under the jurisdiction of the national government. You have your own autonomy in your own city. But when it comes to something which has become more national, there is the jurisdiction. So they are appealing to that law to impose the national security right now, to improve that. So things at this point is getting much better now than it was before. If you remember a few years ago, when you watch the TV, you see that all these protests and all this, like the burned buildings, burned the subway. Now all these people are so much better now because of that.
Including the guy who defied the tank.
Yes. Look, in any country, there are always some dissenters and opposition.
Yes, I think it's necessary.
Okay. Yes, but you cannot just look into one dissenter, a group, and say that they stand for the rest because the rest do not stand for it. In America, you have the KKK. Those are the racist, white, but you cannot say that all white in America are racist. They are not, but some of them are. But you cannot say that because you have the KKK, all people in America are bad. You cannot talk like this. There are always opposition. The same thing in Scotland right now. You have some people, they oppose the decision to have a national referendum. They want Scotland to be part of the UK. But the majority say, no, we don't want it. But there are some that say, I want it. So when you look into the politics of a country, you have to look into the overall perspective. Do not allow yourself to say a small percentage of people, they always say whatever they like. But then what now? For example, even right now, there are some people, they do not want to accept equality with blacks in America, just like KKK. It doesn't mean that all Americans are like that. There are a lot of people, they are very supportive to fight against racism. You understand me? It's the same thing in Hong Kong. There are some dissenter, but many of them are funded and supported by Western organizations and NGOs.
And let's take a phone call because a few people are trying to call. Are you there, caller? Yes?
Yes, Mr. Peltier, just quickly, I do not want to complicate matters.
Yes.
I just want to caution the brother there. When he comes to the Caribbean, he talk about Dominicans being laid back, and he says it's a regional thing, like in the Caribbean. Take into consideration our history. For over 500 years, we have been enslaved. And everywhere we went and we are, or we go, we are being discriminated against. We do not have the kind of machinery of industry like China and Japan. So being laid back is describing the people as being lazy, not being ambitious or whatever it is. There are many circumstances contributing to what you are observing. So in your analysis, you must be very careful because you sound discriminatory when you compare the Caribbean being laid back to China and Japan. The other thing, nobody asked you any question having to do with the military might of China or how non-warlike China is. The Mongolians really took over China and other countries, England, all of them tried to, to do what they're doing. But when you can clearly state that China doesn't have a global agenda when it comes to hegemony or to total control like all the other empires did, you expose yourself even when you said you once had a sponsor and you was controlled, not disclosing the sponsor. And now you have a sponsor, but you're not going to disclose, but you're not being controlled. You raise a lot of red flags.
All right, I'll tell you what, Blessing, because of time, let's allow the professor to answer.
Okay, first point about the layback issue. I think he's made the wrong assumption that layback is bad. And that's why if layback is bad, if you call someone layback, then you are very discriminative. No, I think that layback in many ways is much better than stressful culture, workaholic. That's why I mentioned here about the suicide. That's bad. That's why in my book, for example, I propose a new theory. I propose 77 principles. And one of the principles is what called the achievement care freedom principle, in which I say that in the world that we live in, there are different cultures. Some of them are laid back. Some of them are workaholic. But I'm saying that laid back in many ways is much better than workaholic because we are not so stressful. That's why I mentioned the suicide example and so that how bad it is. People have to kill themselves. It's very stressful. So why is that bad? It's very bad in that sense. But on the other hand, you can also produce more. So which one do you choose is up to you for the people to choose, not for the outsider for you to choose. So if Dominica want to have the laid back culture, it's good for them. What's wrong with that? It's your culture. You should be proud of that. So I'm saying that you should not allow other people to say that you should not change, you should not keep your culture. Your culture is your culture. My job as an analyst is to understand how different we are from each other, and we do not share those differences. And we have to respect that.
I'm going to ask you a final question because it's coming up time and time again as it relates to what is the agenda of China? Is it intending to take over the world, or more specifically the Caribbean?
I think that the last interview, someone, I think you also asked me too about global domination. I think he was talking about to control the colonized. That's what people have been talking about. No, in the sense, China is not colonizing anyone. In fact, China is engaging in a win-win situation in which they engage trade with many other countries. Some of the callers, by the way, have said something which is incorrect. They said that China had been at war with other countries in the last few decades in the South China Sea. No, it's not true at all. China never had a war with any of those claimants in the South China Sea. They have some conflict with them. They are trying to swap it out. But China did not do, for example, what the colonial powers have done, send the Marines in, send a ship in, and invade you, colonize you, and control you. Engage in massacre, genocide, for example. You are in Dominica, you were controlled by the British. Remember, I went over here, that's called the Massacre Health Center. Massacre. Why is there a massacre? Do you remember the history, how the colonials did to you? But China did not do that to Africa or to you. They trade, yes. They buy something from you, but they give you money. And you use the money to develop. So what is wrong with that? Now, you call it domination, but I think that's misuse of the term. But if this is called domination, it's so much better because it benefits you. But normally, when we use the word domination, we do not use like that. We talk about colonial control. One side kind of situation, I benefit, you lose as a slave. For example.
Final question, Franklin, before we go.
Tell us what you found to be interesting, kind, or whatever. How have you been treated? How do you find Dominica, my country? How do you describe Dominica?
I think that Dominica, in many ways, is a laid-back culture. As I said, the lifestyle is very different. People enjoy life. Just like in some of the African countries that I went to, they also do the same thing in Oceania, and they have been enjoying it. Why do you need to change? If that's what you like, why do you need to change? The problem with the IMF and the World Bank is that every time when you go to a country, you have to change it, you have to change this, because it's not efficient. Efficiency is Western-centric in that sense. They want you to be like them. But many African people, and also in the Oceania and Caribbean, they do not want to be like that. They do not want to behave like the Germans, like the Chinese. This is exactly my point over here. Be proud of what you have. Why do you have to listen to them? And that's why many times when those international organizations, they are often controlled by the Western powers, they come in, you have to do their agenda.
Yes.
And if you don't get the money. Look at what happened to Greece. Now it's happening in Argentina. Now look at what happened in Venezuela. Everywhere you go, they impose the agenda. Afterward, the population suffer and decline. So I'm saying that this is exactly what I mean. To point out that you are laid back is to say that you are different from others. Be proud of what you are. Why are you so defensive when people say that you are laid back? It's wonderful. Keep it. Why do you want to change it? You understand me? Instead of other people coming to you and say, you should be like the American or you should be like the German, say, no, we are what we are here. We are proud of it because of the history that this gentleman has said.
All right.
I just want to thank you, sir. Well, take over, Matt.
Yes, I want to thank you because of time. We have, as I said, we wish we had an hour because there are many phone calls coming in, but we want to thank you. Thank you. Come back sometime. We're going to spend an hour together.
2 hours.
2 hours. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.